Mindflow Radio.
Mindflow Radio.
Here we are.
Yeah, we made it.
The eternal present moment.
Yup. He's Monte.
She's Jai Lynn.
We have Erin here with us for our monthly chat.
Hi, Erin.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Making soup for me.
Yeah, it was really yummy.
Good.
Yeah.
I see modes of fixed explanation, lost on the way to a happy destination, slumped and sitting on the bench of despair, clicking through channels, escaping the care. Lots of excuses why actions don't matter. Meanwhile, the masses give in to the chatter, motionless accepting the rhetoric that's fed. Things that are rigged get covered by what's said. Go for a walk and breathe in fresh air. Turn off the screen, find a reason to care. Commit to your body and realize the challenge. Observe the solution, rest in healthy action. We want to believe in the goodness of all, but some people really hold us down to feel small. How can we find the strength to jump back in? Breathing and moving, feel I function again. Forget about the losses, oppressions, and judgments. Long enough to find the hope in existence. Stand up and speak up, feel everything you can. No labels or agenda, open up to the plan. Go for a walk and breathe in fresh air. Turn off the screen, find a reason to care. Commit to your body and realize the challenge. Observe the solution, rest in healthy action. So many reasons to give in or give up. Feeling like someone else knocked over your cup. Just want to escape into a fantasy. Forget about the aging, painful reality. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's true. To maintain well-being, well, get up and move. Find the community that understands. No need to be alone in any circumstance. Go for a walk and breathe in fresh air. Turn off the screen, find a reason to care. Commit to your body and realize the challenge. Observe the solution, rest in healthy action.
So what do we have?
Well, we have the Tao Te Ching again.
All right.
And we're on chapter 7 or verse 7.
Oh, okay.
And I can read it. And it starts, heaven and earth last forever. The reason that heaven and earth are able to last forever is because they do not give birth to themselves. Therefore, they are always alive. Hence, the sage puts herself last and is first. She is outside herself, and therefore herself lasts. It is not through her selflessness that she is able to perfect herself. Is it not through her selflessness that she is able to perfect herself? So that's verse 7.
What strikes me is just that line. She is outside herself.
Right.
Therefore,
Observing.
yeah, not like ego-driven, like the rest of us, perhaps, or most of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was.
That's interesting because I just as a perspective, right? I heard if you're outside of yourself, that you're kind of disembodied.
Well, it depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
I don't think they mean it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they mean, not
I think a mindful
ego
observer
necessarily.
instead
probably
of the ego.
Fits better.
Yeah, and to be of service to others, and then to advance your soul, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
To continue to serve, which is tricky because you got to balance the serving others and serving yourself.
Right.
Right, because you can give too much. You can
Right.
deplete yourself and be at
Yeah, I don't
zero.
like the word selfless.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't resonate with me
Yeah, me neither. More just service to others.
Yeah. In service.
And
In
yourself.
service to self and others.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, in reality, I think when we serve others, we are serving ourselves too, because
Mm-hmm.
we're helping our own karma.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're
You
not
know?
depleting ourselves. Because
Yeah.
there are swaths of people that are helpers, but and you might be able to relate to this. So you give to the point
Mhm.
where you're just completely drained, and it's like, well, what do I do? And then you crash,
Mm-hmm.
sleep for days.
Yeah, caregiver burnout,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think, we experience it, in healthcare all the time with, especially, men too, but moms, right? So you go to
Mhm.
work and you're helping others, you're solving their problems, you're listening to
Yeah.
their problems, you're kind of having empathy, and then you go home and you do it for your
Why
kids.
are there so many dirty dishes?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
Well, yeah. Then you do it for your kids unless you're worn out, and then you
Right.
take it out on the kids.
And then eventually you get worn out.
Yeah.
Right. You go and you do it for your kids and you're still selfless and you're serving them and you're helping them, and then eventually,
Yeah.
like you said, you crash.
Yeah.
And so that's where, time comes in, where you just have to have time for self
Right.
so that you can have time for others.
Mhm.
It's balancing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and another way of looking at being outside of yourself, it's sort of like, I think what they're getting to perhaps is identifying with the big, well, in Zen they call it the big ego, the
Mhm.
ego that represents our spiritual self, rather
Mm.
than,
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
well, there's a little ego that represents our just like this body, and here I am, right, and I'll be around for 80 years, whatever. The little ego, the big ego represents the soulful self, which is going to be around probably a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows how long?
Forever.
Maybe.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. And so the big ego is called Taiga in Zen,
Mm-hmm.
and the little ego is called Shoga, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that's
so the big ego is good.
yeah. The big
Really
ego is
judge it.
you're looking at life through a soulful perspective,
Okay.
essentially.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that because it allows you
Yeah.
to have an ego. Right?
Yeah,
You
it
have to
does.
have
It
a
does.
healthy ego.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Right.
yeah. I mean, and
Pretty
the
important.
little ego is important too, but
Mhm.
the little ego is not supposed to be the CEO
Right.
of your life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, if the big ego can be the CEO, and little ego can be kind of like the middle manager.
The COO. Just the operations, right? Managing the operations.
yeah.
Cool for short.
I like it.
Operating it. Yeah. Mhm.
Do you mind if I check that out?
Yeah.
I read it earlier too, and just like,
Well, we need to get our hands on another translation. Too.
yeah.
Yeah. And I have mine, and I just moved everyone, so I lost it. It's
Oh.
lost in the shuffle.
that
I only had room for so many books on my shelf.
Yeah, I've always liked Stephen Mitchell's. Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, and we haven't checked that one out really at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Heaven and earth last forever. How
I think, and I
I
did.
feel like such a skeptic today. I'm like,
Yeah.
but how does the earth last forever?
Well, it doesn't.
I
Obviously,
thought that too. I mean, it doesn't
But
last
maybe,
forever.
but maybe the
But-
eternal present is all we have too. So from that perspective, the earth is. But who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
Physical earth.
Yeah, in billions and billions of years, the earth is not going to be here
Hmm.
if there is such thing as a future.
But then there may be some other, right? I mean, maybe there's
Right, an
another
replacement.
earth, another
Yeah,
place, another
that's true.
humanity, another
Which kind of gets down to the point that as far as reality goes, we really don't know what's going on.
Right.
You know?
This is all we know.
Yeah, we really don't have it. We can pretend like we know.
Right. I think they're
Yeah.
implying, though, that the heaven and earth are eternal because they're there to serve us. They're there to, you could imagine heaven's there to serve our soul, and the earth is there to serve our body. And that's how, and kind of like the selfless mother who's just there to serve, and that creates an eternal quality to them. And I was thinking about, when we've talked about evolving or awakening before, and when you get to the top of the soul, go back and serve.
Right.
And that's what all the enlightened,
Bodhisattva.
now go back and serve. So maybe that's what the earth and heaven do, right? They just continue to serve.
Yeah. And you did a little research before you came today.
A little. Yeah, I Googled it.
What was it again? I can't remember.
Just what I said, I think.
Sorry. Yeah. So I think my mind just gets really boggled, and I'm thinking at the same time as I'm hearing, so maybe I didn't hear everything, but this idea of she puts herself last and therefore is first.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just
and I
so
think it's
interesting.
because she's observing.
Okay.
So she
Not
then
in
is
a hurry.
becoming wise and becoming sage, because she's just putting herself last and watching and kind of observing, and then you can imagine she's probably observing her own thoughts as well, and just this kind of state of mindfulness,
right,
by being
Presence,
a mindful observer,
fully present.
right,
Not worrying about the past, not concerned about the future.
yeah. And there's a leadership, maybe TED Talk or something too, that talks about, or a book that talks about, the why are the best leaders always the last to eat or drink or do anything to take care of themselves. And I don't know, I don't remember what it's all about, but I thought about that too.
That's so interesting.
That the best leaders serve themselves last. Sounds like it's
leader,
painful,
then.
right?
Dang.
I don't know if that's
we
always
just
the
all
case
had
either.
soup
No.
together, and I
Well-
served myself first, and said, here's the bowls. And
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Dang it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll try to be
More
better
work to
at
do.
that.
That means I get to eat first now. Just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But we do, let's talk about leaders a little while.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing. I've just been listening to this Tulsi Gabbard podcast. And she's talking about how we really need great leaders and how the politicians just are not cut out of that cloth necessarily. For whatever reason, they're propped up to be the so-called leaders, but they're not great leaders because, in a sense, according to Tulsi, they're like really emotionally immature. And just, I don't know, to me it just, and just caught in their ways, like high school, she says. Right. It's like Congress is like high school, and everybody goes in their little cliques in the room, and they all hang out. And
their silos.
Point at each other.
Yeah, right. And she taught, the way I see it, I mean, the leaders are immature, but in a sense, though, they're a real reflection of the masses who are also immature. So that's really the key for us to evolve, is to find a level of maturity. And what does that mean?
Right.
Part of that is not being as selfish. Like little kids are selfish. A little 3-year-old self. I want that toy, I want that toy. Yeah, right.
Yeah, even my 13-year-old, I had a conversation with him about how he kind of said, and this was a little scary, but I don't care about anybody else. I can't help anybody else. I can't control anybody else. I just care about myself. So if you're upset, Mom, that's your thing. It's not me. And I
That's
talked to
healthy
him.
in a way.
It is in a way. And so I started to just sit back and listen, and it's true. Like, he's just present. And But there's the ego, and I reminded him at that time, like, but remember, you're egocentric right now. Like your
Yeah.
frontal lobe isn't developed, and just be open to more possibilities later in life. That you
it's
might
true.
care about other people's feelings or emotions.
Well, and essentially, we're all selfish from the perspective that this is the way we view life through our own eyes.
Right.
And our own mind processes the information.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all there. Yeah, right.
We have our own past that laces the present
Right.
with its own flavor.
Exactly. We all have our own traumas and our own like mistakes we've made. And I think really the idea of being mature, of finding that level of maturity is to, number one, take responsibility for ourselves and our lives and our thoughts.
And observe them.
Right?
Pay attention.
Well, more than observe, even like steer them when we find ourselves blaming others for whatever, or hating other people, or not being compassionate towards like millions of people. You know, we need to like identify that in our own minds and then change it, and then find that compassion for others, and as a result, a pleasant result of finding compassion for others is we're more compassionate to ourselves as well, because our minds are getting into that habit of compassion rather than blame.
Right.
And the reality is if I go around blaming others for all my problems,
Nothing will ever change.
well, nothing will ever change. And then when I make a mistake, bam, I'm blaming myself. I'm hating on myself. And then I'm really caught in this cycle that just like crushes my self-esteem, right? So I want to escape from that, so I'll blame others because my self-esteem, I mean, it's just this horrible like cycle of immaturity that is so common.
So I wonder if leaders, politicians, school systems, start teaching emotional intelligence, because that's what this is emotional intelligence, and just the awareness of being able to change your thoughts, change your reactions, and the way you see things. And it reminded me when you're talking, and I'm thinking about political leaders, and I read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, I don't know, quite a while ago, but she talks about Barack and how when they were in their 30s or sometime earlier in their marriage, when a lot of marriages were falling apart, she said, I didn't know what was happening, and then I kind of reflected, like, why are we okay? And she said it was because he was already there. Like, and she was implying that he already had the emotional intelligence to kind of be present with her and to be in a relationship where other marriages at that point were just kind of falling apart because they didn't have that. And
well, it's
growing at the same pace.
Right.
Being open to each other's learning.
Being a team, right? That's the key to a healthy relationship.
Serving others. It goes back. I mean, it ties right back into what we read. Serving others and not just yourself.
Yeah.
There is a piece that I want to go back to. You're talking about your son and not caring, and I think there's a level of detachment there that we all need, and it's something that I can't remember getting before a couple of years ago. Trying not to care about somebody's feelings, or will I be approved of? Or am I enough? Because they just like made a funny look at me, and maybe I'm not like cool enough to hang out with them. Very, like in the high school gym or cafeteria. But that level of detachment with service
as a 13-year-old,
right?
I mean, that is
right.
good. It's like the serenity prayer kind of too.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Like accepting the things that I can't change.
Totally. Acceptance is so important. And just detachment. Oh, it's like neutrality.
Yeah.
Viewing the world through a neutral lens, and I can't really change this. But we can. But
we can change our own vibration. But even so, you can't change your vibration if it's meant to seek approval from others. If it's meant to, gain popularity, that's the same thing. Or meant to make a bunch of money or whatever. If your intention is out of some kind of a greed, a desire
for fame.
For fame or fortune.
Popularity.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's kind of what he was saying. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, and I liken it to the smiling, even though you just force yourself to smile.
I do
You're
that
super
often.
uncomfortable, but you want people to like you and think that you're
Yeah.
nice and kind and friendly. So
Yeah.
you just smile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he won't. I mean, I could challenge him and say, just do it, Warren. Just
Yeah.
pretend. And he'll be
He
like,
smiles at me.
oh. Yeah. He will if you really force him.
I think that's just because I'm always smiling,
Yeah.
which is something that I learned.
Right. And if you put it in, and it's a good thing too. Like if you smile,
It
if you
can
walk
be.
into a room smiling, or like you talked Monte about, well, if I go into Quick Trip and I just am
Yeah.
kind of present and I'm kind and I'm,
Yeah.
engage with somebody, the
Yeah.
whole place kind of shifts.
Yeah. Everybody can feel it.
Right. So there's,
Mhm.
it's just a balance, right?
Yeah.
And it's knowing when. And
I think it's like the 3-pronged stool, and without one of the legs, you fall over. So there's the detachment, the acceptance, and the compassion, maybe. I don't know, actually.
That's
I just
interesting.
came up with that in my head right now. But
detachment.
I think detachment is super key.
Well, detachment too, you look at it, it's like having that neutral, detached perspective. That is being mindful,
Mhm.
essentially, because I'm not putting a judgment on things.
Mhm.
I'm just noticing, I'm trying to notice all the variables.
Mhm.
And the only way to notice all the variables is to just be open and clear-minded
Mhm.
and not put my own spin on it,
Right.
Mhm.
you know?
And I think this actually ties into the verse
Mhm.
because it says that she puts herself last
Mhm.
and ends up first. And it's, if you're detached and you're not in a race and you're not trying to get there because you know there's going to
Right.
be enough for you when you get there, then
Yeah.
you
Right. You're
It all
not
works
attached to
out.
the outcome.
Well, and then
Yeah,
you've won.
yeah,
And then you've won.
absolutely.
And then you get the prize of good energy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you walk into Quick Trip and everybody feels it.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally.
Mm-hmm.
On a good day, that is, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's out of your control, of course, but most
Yeah.
often, and like I talked about before too, you show up to work and you just present yourself in that way and you're consistent and
Yeah.
eventually others, it just naturally happens, right?
Mhm.
You vibrate that energy
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden your team is kind of vibrating a little higher.
It's true.
Mhm.
It's true. I
Mhm.
look at groups of people as just like, it's almost like the dominant energy rules. No matter what that
Right.
is, no matter what it is. I was in a room with people once and I saw a dog get angry and then like spread to the entire room. And I'm the one who made the dog angry, actually. So I tried to pick it up by a scruff of its neck, and I'm like, "Arr!" and then everybody starts arguing with each other, and I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, that anger spread from that dog to everybody."
Wow. Yeah.
And I just like observed it. I was like, "Huh?"
Wow, I did that.
Yeah, right.
I created that.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Uh-huh.
That's
That's
funny.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's true, and it reminds me of Dr. DeLine telling me once that you're only as happy as your saddest child. You'll only ever be as happy as your saddest child. And that's that energy, right? And
Yeah.
the energy of your tribe, the energy of your house, the energy,
Yeah.
it spreads.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does. The energy of your communities.
Mm-hmm.
So this next song that we're gonna play is very close to me. A call is Gurmukhi for timeless. It's the timeless one. Our soul is timeless. And for that reason, we can detach from the emotional ties in our life a little bit more because we're timeless. Our soul will go on. We are here. We have missions to do. We have things to do. We are here to end the polarity. So in whatever ways that works for each of us, the chant Sat Sri Akal, the great truth of timelessness. So if you know this chant, sing along, and the English is a representation of the chant, so you can hear the way I interpret this chant in the English version that we begin with. So enjoy.
You are here on purpose. You are here with meaning. We are here to learn more. We are here for
this community.
Mm-hmm. How lucky.
Right when I drove, first time ever, I drove into this town, I felt it. I was like, it felt like home to me. It was really, I was like, this feels like home. I was like,
Today?
home. No, the first time ever I came to.
The first time you came to Viroqua.
Yeah.
Mine was the same.
Yeah,
Cool.
I just felt it.
It felt like the next home because I've never felt at home anywhere. So I think that's part of my desire to run away all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, when I came here, I was like, whoa, what is this feeling I have? I like this town.
And we hear that a lot, you know. We have friends who just kind of show up and they're like, wow, this place is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy, for being here.
Yeah.
His energy just brought him, just spun him into the area somehow.
Yeah.
Your energy attracted me.
Oh,
It was all mutual. It was like
it's the collective
Yeah.
energy.
magnetic kind of
Draw the
thing.
team together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the team, the tribe,
The
the
team
tribe.
tribe.
Then, you know, you
Thrive
wonder,
tribe.
how do we maintain balance, though? You know, without getting the polarity, right? So we've got this great community. It's wonderful. We're evolving. We're doing all sorts of good work.
Yeah.
How do we live together in harmony
I think-
with everyone?
I think that's it. I mean, we have to achieve a level of maturity,
Right.
you know, and not all of us are going to be mature. Now, I'm not
Respect.
mature all the time either.
Right.
Yeah, respecting each other for sure,
Mhm.
which is, you take that a step back, just being compassionate towards each other.
Yeah.
And then again, like I said, we're compassionate towards ourselves. Then we're feeling better, our self-esteem goes up, and it's this cycle, it's a spiral. And that's
Yeah.
you know, and it's interesting, speaking about maturity, you know, we're talking about like how schools should teach emotional intelligence. Think of it, they kind of do in a sense. It's like there's been this big, huge push in schools over the last 10 years of no bullying. No bullying, no bullying, no bullying, no bullying. And then you look at like Facebook and everybody's bullying each other,
Right.
all these adults.
All the adults are.
I know. I'm like, whoa, you're acting like children. I mean, I've been a part of it. I'm not saying I'm like above that, but I do notice it. I do notice it, and it's time we really took a hard look at that.
Right.
And it's one thing I've been noticing on Facebook recently is that when I call people out, it's like, hey, why are you name calling? People are like, huh. They kind of like, it takes them aback.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Oh, good.
yeah, it feels like people are ready to hear this.
Yeah.
You know,
Open
it's like,
to
it's
good
been
stuff
happening
out.
so much in the last year. I think people are just tired of it.
Right.
Because they
Well, wears you
realize,
out and you get trained too. There's just
well,
such
yeah, it's terrible.
a draining.
Well,
feel
you're
to-
calling-
it's vampiric.
It's,
Very vampiric.
well, and it gets reflected back. No matter
Right,
what,
just
if I'm
keeps coming
calling
back.
somebody a name, that's name. You know, it's this back and forth like emotional warfare that like toddlers. I mean, like it's fourth graders are like, don't call them a name. Name calling's not, you know, and blah blah blah. And then not all the adults,
But a large
a
percentage.
big percentage of adults are like highly engaging in that just immature place. And
So I want to go back a little bit to the idea of how do we maintain the tribe. And one thing that I've been pondering lately is this idea of if you aren't polar, then there's no polarity. So it's kind of just seeing the God spark in everyone, or
yeah,
having respect, or knowing that everyone has their own past and present, and so they're going to have their own perspectives, and if we could just honor each other and
yeah,
not get excited when we feel like they've been saying something bad about us, to give people the benefit of the doubt that maybe they're just dealing with their own thing. Like the more we remove ourselves from that polarity, the more that we are a part of removing polarity.
Yeah. just give people grace, right? I mean,
Yeah.
give them grace for their path and
Oh yeah.
and allow it. Yeah, I've talked with people recently where they were kind of venting about something somebody had done or explaining it, and I said, you just got to give grace, right? I mean, that give
Yeah.
grace that they're right where they're supposed to be and doing the best they can, right?
Totally.
Right.
And
We're
with
not
the
going to
tools
change
they've
anyone's
got.
mind
Yeah.
when we're accusing them of being bad.
Right.
As soon as
No.
you go up to somebody and tell them they're bad, they're immediately shackles up,
Yeah.
shield up,
Or stupid.
on the defense.
Right. Or idiot.
Yeah, that's like a
The
common
name-
term.
it
It's
is,
so
yeah.
bizarre to me.
I had posted something on Facebook. One of my most maybe radical posts.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you do that, you don't get much feedback. You
Uh-huh,
know,
yeah.
it's something that's really a little
Uh-huh.
bit beyond what you normally do. And
Yeah.
but I did get feedback from one person that's really close to me, and I was called an idiot. And
Yeah.
and I was like, oh. Well, I don't know about that. Like, I'm not sure why you're calling me an idiot. There's
Yeah,
nothing
right.
new here. There's no new thoughts, no new
Yeah.
opinions. It's still me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. But how do we remove ourselves from that feeling that we get when we read somebody call us an idiot?
Right. Well, I just
And how
still
often would they even
love
say
them.
that to your
Right.
face?
I mean, for me, I
Call it
maintain the
out.
relationship. I call it out.
Yeah.
I say, oh, that just doesn't resonate with me. And
Yeah. What's with the
And-
name calling?
yeah, and then maybe I even fall apart and call some names back or
Yeah.
say some
Yeah.
expletives because I feel safe, right? It's somebody I'm safe
Yeah,
enough
yeah,
with
yeah.
that I can do that.
Yeah.
And then, we come back to accepting,
Mhm.
accepting that we have our own opinions and
Right.
ideas
Well,
about it.
and another aspect of maturity is a sense of humility,
Mhm.
I believe, and just like
Knowing
knowing
yourself.
that maybe I have my opinion about things, but
Mhm.
maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much
That's
of
what I
that.
did for a
There's-
couple days.
Yeah.
I was like, I reflected that and I even thought of other ideas, other stories I could create about, and it was a post about race and other stories I could create about the system and so it's being open to
Mhm.
Yeah.
other ideas.
Well, and that's what's lacking too with a lot of people is there's no humility.
Mhm.
There's no question in their mind whether they know the truth or not. They are locked in to this little narrative. It's like this little box in their mind.
Yeah.
And anybody that's outside that box is some kind of name, is an idiot or whatever.
Right.
But there's no questioning. It's like, maybe I don't know all
Right.
of what's going on.
Right.
I mean, and so I just see people engaging in the name calling and just the lack of humility. It's like, whoa, we've got to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely a level of maturity that we're all seeking, whether we know it or not. We've got to get to and sometimes that maturity comes out in the name calling somebody else, like, well, I'm smarter than you,
Mhm.
and that's like the maturity that we're claiming, like, well, I'm smarter, so
Yeah.
I'm more mature than you.
Yeah.
It's like we know that we need to grow, and so some of us excuse that need by pointing immaturity on somebody
Well, we're
else.
confused. I mean, a lot of this comes from the media.
Mhm.
And the media is just full of judgment, full of I know, the whole thing. You know?
Somebody was saying, and I don't remember who, but somebody was saying, remember back when there was this one newscaster who would just read the news and he wouldn't have an opinion.
Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
That's what the news is supposed to be.
And I was reading an article and I read it out loud and I was like, emotional word, emotional word, emotional word. Like,
Oh yeah.
you could
highlight
take
'em.
all those emotional words and take them out and then there'd be the news,
Oh yeah.
but
At
We
least
should
part
do
of
that
it.
for our tribe, right? We should be
But-
taking the news and spinning it to just without
take
all the emotion.
stuff. Well, and that's what really gets me right now because we are emotional creatures. We are meant to nurture or defend. That's in our DNA
Yeah.
to defend our tribe.
Yeah.
And so if our media is adding their bent on how they want us to receive the news, then that again adds more polarity in our communities.
Well, totally.
Right.
The media kind of pits us against each
Even
other.
and I hate to bring up this, but the COVID vaccine. Like, if you look at the news,
Oh my gosh.
it's just about how big
That
a
was what
disaster it is.
that was what the article
in my
was.
opinion, I'm like, this is probably one of the best things that we're ever going to experience in science and medicine, like to shift us to a different place. And it's happening, and it's happened rather quickly. We could have fear about that, or we could accept it. And but if you look at the media only, and I'm not suggesting either way, but if you look at the media, it's spun one way, that states are in disasters getting it out. Yep, there's no organization. Nobody can get it. There's not enough people have it yet. Get the shots in the arms and that spin on it, and
it's not happening
blame.
fast enough.
Yeah, blame and
Well, and the media seems to love to be involved with fear mongering.
Oh my god.
what if they were celebrating? What if the media was celebrating the
Look,
vaccine?
we've
Maybe
got
that wouldn't be
this.
good either. Maybe it should be neutral, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
But you could spin it the
neutrality
other
for
way.
the
Yeah,
news would be
right.
really great.
right, you spin it the other way, and then you've got the other people saying, that then we're just sheep because the media's making us. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
a real rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Of the whole.
But when we're
neutrality
talking about
works.
emotional intelligence, I think that is part of the maturity of emotional intelligence, is being able to witness emotional jargon.
Yeah.
And at this point,
And identify it.
yeah, and there, I'm not going to be able to convince anyone who doesn't want to, and that's another part of it, is just neutrality. Like, if you want to be involved and have your heart race and your adrenals pump, just because you read these words that are opinionated,
Well,
that's for you.
Yeah, there's something. There's wisdom to regulating our news input as well. To not overdose on it. That's to be moderate and to be careful with our mental diet.
Yeah.
That's part of being an adult too.
Yeah. And recognize.
Yeah, you can't eat candy all day.
And
for goodness
evolving
sake.
through your belief systems, and they should really, or they could evolve. I think about being in my 20s and reading Time magazine all the time and thinking, I've read it all. I mean, they always are talking about the same stuff, and it's the same spin. Same thing with Huffington Post. I remember starting to read Huffington Post, and so I'm reading it. Like, just keep talking about the same stuff. I hear it. I tended to agree with it, so it made me comfortable.
Yeah.
But I put it down, and I got tired of it. Like, it just kind of got boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, thank goodness, though, there is a lot of alternative media out there.
Yeah, I just don't even look at any of it.
I like listening to podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts, for sure.
That's media.
Yeah, interviewing real people.
Yeah. Really getting to the bottom of issues rather than these sound
discussions,
bites.
and they may not even agree.
Yeah, right.
There's open dialogue about what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not scripted.
It still spins me though. I still choose certain podcasters.
Oh yeah, of course.
Spin in a certain direction that's comfortable for me. And
Yeah, but at least we have more of a choice.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
we
mean,
got
and
lots of
for
choice.
a lot of people seem to be turning away from the mainstream media,
Yeah.
which
And maybe at some point it won't even exist, right?
it's probably in the decline for sure. And it's part of our evolution is that we become our own media, probably.
Right.
That's what I remember looking at it when the protest was happening in South Dakota with the pipeline, and the way we got our news on that was watching it live on Facebook. It's like, whoa, this is going on. And the mass media wasn't even covering it. Really, they were just barely touching, a little spin here, a little dibble dabble here and there. But in reality, it was like this big event. And we were like watching it live. I remember Jay and I were driving while Jay's like, we gotta go there.
I was freaking out. My heart was pumping up.
Though, I mean, that's what happened with George Floyd with me too, was, I saw the video and I didn't actually watch it. I just saw what was happening, and then I was ready to be there, right? I was ready, but it's out of my wheelhouse.
Well, and this,
Completely out of my wheelhouse.
yeah, the South Dakota, or the pipeline.
Yeah.
I remember it got to the point where a bunch of ex-military guys, they had a big GoFundMe
Yeah.
where they raised like all this money, and there were like 1,000 ex-military guys there facing off.
The police.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, this is huge. What's going on? What's going to happen? And I couldn't get the information from the media
Yeah.
because they were just like blacking it out. They were not talking. We don't want to talk
They
about
didn't want it
that.
to be happening.
No, they didn't. So they didn't want to give it any juice. But now we were able to, due to, the new type of media that's coming out, we were able to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing happened with it necessarily, but it was
But it creates an energy, though. That's
oh yeah,
that's the
it
part of
does.
that's
It's
kind
true.
of a little daunting. Like, what if that's important right there, right then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we learn and grow from it. We don't continue to spread that energy everywhere. We saw it spread to every city. And when it happened in one spot, two, 3 people, right? And it created a lot of energy. And I think it's good, and I think it's not good. I think it's both.
I think it's Pluto. I think it's Pluto return. America's dealing with the karma that it attempted to throw in the closet, and there's all these skeletons in the closet spilling out, and we're like, no, get back in there,
Right.
and it's like, sorry, we can't
Right.
pretend that this country was not founded on violence
Right.
anymore.
Removing
So-
statues, that's another thing. We remove it. We pretend it didn't happen, and maybe we'll put it in a museum so that when you're walking through a park, it feels beautiful and great, and you don't recognize what has actually happened there. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tying it back together. This is what I
fun.
love
I
about
know.
these conversations is then in the end it's like, okay, how do we weave all of that back together into a pretty tapestry and tie it off? And what I keep on imagining is this stool. And what are the legs of the stool? What is it that we need to have to hold us up so that we can have that emotional intelligence, so that we can be mature? And how can we model that in our presence? How can we be the sage of the Tao? And so that's
by achieving humility and acceptance, and
Sage
not
yourself.
not engaging in the name calling, and when we witness it, calling it out, but not in a hateful way. It's just like, hey,
I
what's
usually
going on?
just say I don't resonate with that, unless it's somebody who really triggers me.
In psychology, it's called a process comment. When you really just comment on the process. What's with the name calling?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? And people are like,
Right.
I'm used to it.
What if
Everybody
they really,
does it.
What if they really then think about why they do it?
Yeah,
There's
right.
a reason why.
Yeah.
There's a topic there. There's something that happened.
Well,
Lots of things that happened.
There's a habit
Culture,
involved.
yeah.
A lot of people are in that habit.
Right.
And we have to get into the habit. We don't have to. It'd be beneficial as more and more of us step into the habit of being more mature, which is not engaging in that, and having humility and having acceptance, having compassion for everybody. Understanding we're all flawed beings. We all have issues. And to demonize a whole groups of people is just, that's very divisive and unproductive. And to send out that hatred is just, like I said, it comes reflecting back right at you from your own mind. So if we want to feel good about ourselves, it's the only way. It's to grow.
Right.
It's to accept. It's to evolve. It's to
Be
become
of service to others. If you
Well,
tie
right.
it back into the Tao.
And collectively, it's to get out of this violent culture that we're in. Because we can pretend like all the violence, well, we're over it now as the war machine keeps rolling. That's the core of it. That's the beginning of it. It just comes back to us karmically, I believe. If we want to stop the police violence, we want to stop this and that. We got to stop exporting violence out to other cultures. Yemen. How many people talk about that? Not many. Let me tell you. But I mean,
So much for tying it together.
tying it together, we're evolving into more peaceful people. I would believe eventually. No.
Okay, so I want to talk about this idea
Sorry about
that's
that.
coming into my mind, and so we have detachment, humility, and acceptance. But then there's the self-service. Is that included in those three, or is that a separate?
Is that humility?
I don't know.
Self-service.
Or not self-service, in service.
Selflessness.
But there's
think
a
it's part of
level of
humility.
taking care of yourself.
Right.
Well, you
Is
can-
that detachment
Detachment then?
or acceptance?
It's
all-
Or is it its own
compassionate.
thing?
It's being compassionate towards yourself.
Yeah.
So compassion would be.
It's all
the-
love.
Yeah,
It's
it
all just
is.
love.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
true.
It's just
Mhm.
loving everything, everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yourself first, and then loving others.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Put your
understanding.
oxygen mask on first.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I like to
Hmm
remember.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
I mean, as a mom and now a single mom, you know, it's making sure that I schedule that time
Mhm.
and that I make sure that it happens, and then I can be a better mom.
Mhm.
And you just
Absolutely.
vibrate higher when
Take care
when
of
you're
yourself.
rested and you're
Yeah.
you know engaged in something that you love.
Yeah.
And, hmm
For sure.
hmm
So hope that was some food for thought. And
3 hours later, we'll video again. No, we're done. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Till our next talk on the Tao
Mhm.
next month. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is going to air on WDRT on February 7th, I'm pretty sure. I think that's a Sunday.
Mhm.
So big shout out to our Viroqua family
Yo.
and
Mhm.
all our listeners, sending you love, sending you acceptance, sending you a detached love of being in this human family together.
Yeah.
And
Human tribe.
Mhm.
yeah, glad to be walking on this earth with you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, be well.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Mhm.
Dare to dream your dream. Ooh, into the collective stream. Open your view from above. Ooh, receive the flow of love. The impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. Believe to achieve. Relax to receive. Shine your light from within. Oh, trust, have faith, and begin. Act with creativity. Ooh, live with sincerity. impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. Believe to achieve, relax to receive. Bliss is at your fingertips. Ooh, drink from the cup, little sips. Release polarity. Ooh, choose grace and serenity. The impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. The impossible is possible. Believe to achieve, relax to receive.